Hey there everyone, Rob here again from the Better SMB podcast. In this episode, we dive into a topic that is unique to New Zealand businesses, the Māori economy. We catch up with Katia, Holland, a Hamilton-based commercial lawyer, and get insights on what it takes to practice Tikanga Māori in a business world, and also how to do business with Māori-based organisations. There are heaps of takeaways as usual for everyone to apply to your business. Another fascinating insight into what makes the New Zealand business scene so unique. Anyway, before the episode starts, just that quick reminder, please follow, share the episode and the podcast. The support really does help. Anyway, that's enough from me. On with the podcast.
Welcome back to the Better SMB, where we're on a mission to lift New Zealand's productivity by helping small and medium business leaders take practical steps to improve their business performance, starting today. I'm David Altiner.
And I'm Rob Bull.
We've created this platform to spark a movement. Our BHAG is to get 100,000 businesses, that includes 15,000 manufacturers, on a journey of continuous improvement. Through the podcast, our monthly column, The Last Word, a New Zealand manufacturer, and our growing community, we're building a trusted voice for SMB leaders, offering the inspiration, insight, and implementation support they need to build high-performing, future-ready businesses. He aha, te mea nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. That's the foundation of today's conversation. How Māori ways of thinking offer a radically different approach to time, responsibility, and business. Today we are joined by Katia Holland, an associate at McCall Lewis in Hamilton, who believes in providing practical solutions to clients and working collaboratively to achieve their business goals. She works across a range of corporate and commercial law, including commercial contracts, business sales and purchases, commercial property, finance, corporate structures, governance, and shareholder and joint venture agreements. Her passion lies in working with Māori and assisting Māori, iwi, and hapu clients in the Māori commercial space. She assists Māori business owners by providing tailored legal advice that promotes Māori values and aims to best support Māori businesses to thrive. Welcome to the Better SMB, Katia.
Kia ora kōrua. Thank you so much for having me. Kia ora kōrua, ko Katia tōku ingoa, he ori tēnei waikato, ki te noho ahau, ki kirikiriro. Kia ora guys, my name is Katia and thank you for having me.
It is really awesome to have you here, Katia, because it's bringing in a really different aspect to business, and particularly the uniqueness of New Zealand, which is that Māori perspective. But before we dig into all of that, let's get to know you a little bit better. And I know just as we were preparing for this and before we pressed record, you were telling me that you were born and bred in Kirikiriroa, which is just the same place as I am, although we're across town from each other. But who are you? What's your background? And what got you to this point in your life?
That's right. I'm from Kirikiriroa in Hamilton. I was born and bred here, and I did all my schooling here and have decided to set up my family here. So I live in Hamilton with my partner and my two young boys. A bit about myself. I'd probably start a bit about my mahi. A great introduction from David. Thank you. Very thorough. And it does cover everything that I do in my day-to-day life. I work at a law firm called McCall Lewis, and we are a modern law firm that has a pretty impressive history of working in the Waikato or in serving the Waikato region. So we've been around for just over 100 years, which is a pretty long time, I would say. And I'm proud to be part of an organisation that has values grounded in Te Ao Māori. We have core values that are based Tikanga principles, and I think it played a really pivotal role in my career, starting at a law firm like McCall Lewis, that I was exposed to working with Māori, working or knowing a particular way of doing work, which was very much about doing it the Māori way. And that's where I've kind of discovered my passion for working with Māori organisations. And I think it has been a true privilege to be able to do that in the Māori commercial space. So I work in a commercial team, but the difference being is that I'm working with a lot of Māori day to day. So I have found that really rewarding.
Okay, really interesting. I'm going to pick up something there. You said that there was a really strong foundation in Tikanga Māori at McCall Lewis. I'm going to be really honest. I drive up Victoria Street. It's a recognised brand. It's a well-known and respected law firm in Hamilton. And yet I didn't even know this. So give us some background. How deep does it go into the business, or is it just a little branch off the side that this little team in one office really practices that, or is that right through the whole practice and with the partners as well?
Yes, I would say it is fairly foundational in what we do and how we operate. They are the foundation of what we do day to day. The values are whaia te iti kahurangi, which is around excellence. The next one is manaakitanga. Manaakitanga is about hospitality, respect, caring for people. And then you've got kotahitanga. So we it's unity or acting as one. We're one team. And those values are what I do, and what comes from the directors is the foundation of how strategic plan is based around those values. Our policy and procedures are based around those values. How we deal with each other on a daily basis is around those values. So I think I'm lucky as well to be in an organisation that truly is reflective of what they say they will do and what they say they are trying to achieve. Because, like you said, Rob, sometimes it can be a little add-on for many organisations. It's really when you are applying it with integrity and being genuine about what you're doing, I think that's the real difference, because it is easy to put, here are our values, and not actually do them.
Oh, look, values, I have an interesting relationship with values, particularly values of an organisation, and those who are nicely printed on the wall, and the PR firms help to create them. Yet if you have people's backs to the wall that it's nicely printed on, and you ask them about the values, they can't repeat them. They can't regurgitate any of those elements. I'm going to go off track to the plan a little bit because I'm really interested in this. One, because it's a great Hamilton law firm that's really well known, and I didn't know this, and it's bugging me that I didn't. But what was the trigger point for having Māori deep into the whole practice?
Very good question. And I think that decision was made before my time.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer to that, but there was a time when I think a whole strategy was based around it. And there was a point that a decision was obviously made to have values embedded in Te Ao Māori. It was before my time, Rob. And
so you're not old enough to be there for a long time, but
thank you.
It's been there long enough to be an established part of the DNA and just who you are as a law firm.
Yes, and it's definitely something that I am proud of it. I would genuinely say that these are values that our organisation is striving to uphold.
So back to you. Another question about just trying to find who Katia is. What pulled you to commercial law? Because being a lawyer, I imagine, because I've never done law, but there's so many different avenues that you can follow under that umbrella term. So why commercial law? Why sort of in that business commercial space?
So I think, the real story is that...
We won't tell anyone else.
Don't tell anyone. It wasn't because I ever wanted to do it. It was actually an opportunity that came into my life. I was at another firm in Hamilton, and I hadn't intended on making a move or anything like that, but a colleague of mine had left to go to McCall. Anyway, it ended up that she had kind of taken me coffee. She had said, look, there's a space within the organisation potentially, and it would be in the commercial space, and it would be an opportunity for you to work towards or specialise in the Māori commercial law space. I recall having a coffee with Aidan Warren at the time, and he is now a judge at the Māori Land Court, and he sat me down and kind of gave this idea to me about what I could do with my career, and it was really a deciding point of, okay, I'm going to change tact and go for commercial law and specialise in commercial law. I was doing a lot of property and very much general practice before I did that. So going to McCall, I had very little commercial experience at all. But I saw that and understood that the firm had a strong Māori client base and was doing a lot of work with Māori clients. And it was an opportunity for me to go with. So that's really how it happened.
Excellent.
And I happened to end up liking it. So...
Heavens forbid, liking the work that you do.
I know. Who would have thought?
But I'm sure that massive variety of businesses, commercial endeavours all come across. So it's just like a new job every day, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's really interesting work.
So is there a whakatauki or a concept from Te Ao Māori that really shapes your view on business and or leadership? Again, from what you bring in business, your advice to businesses, what's something that's deep core that shaped your view on all of this?
There is definitely one, and I've actually reflected on this quite a lot in the last few years in terms of my mahi, what I do at work and in my life with a young family. And it's probably one that people have heard before. It goes, whaia te iti kahurangi, ki te tūohu koe me he maunga teitei. And it means seek the treasure that you value most dearly. If you bow your head, let it be to a lofty mountain. And it has lots of interpretations and has different meanings to different people. But for me, it speaks simply of excellence. It's around striving to do your very best. And if you don't succeed in what you're trying to do, at least you know that you've put your absolute best effort forward. And like I said before, it applies to all aspects of my life. Like I think about it as a partner, as a mum, and at work. Like it's something that always kind of kicks around in my head day to day.
This is really cool. It's very different to, I guess, Western practices, right? Where it's all about here, now, what's next, this month, this quarter, so on, so on, so on, right? Having you share some of this is amazing. Now, McCall Lewis, 100 years old, in a New Zealand business setting, that's quite old, considering most businesses kind of shut shop at probably 5 or 10 years or something like that. And ultimately 100 years old, that's intergenerational. But in the Māori world, 100 years isn't actually that long, right? From a Māori perspective, what does intergenerational thinking mean for you?
So I had this really interesting discussion with a friend of mine so she's super passionate about the Māori startup space, and she regularly works with Māori founders. And like part of her mahi, she has created this accelerator program called Tupu, and it's designed to help Māori startups. And she was talking to me recently about a lot of the challenges that are faced by Māori in this space and the trouble that they're having aligning with investors or people that understand the importance of intergenerational well-being. And from the discussion I had with her, my understanding is that you typically have founders with this idea. They want to set up a business around this idea and be super successful in the first few years and sell. Basically, they want an exit strategy that involves them exiting sooner rather than later with heaps of money. The same thinking goes for investors. They invest in the early stages of the life cycle, and then they intend to exit at the end, again, with lots of money. So there's a real disconnect between many Māori startups and investors because a lot of these investors are not open to understand this more sustainable approach to business. Intergenerational well-being, you're thinking about 5 to 7 generations into the future. And as you said, David, traditional business strategies are not aligned with this approach. You said before, like 4 or 5 years and they're shut shop. That's not something that is foundational to a lot of Māori organisations. And at the time, I remember thinking, that's an obvious barrier. And what can be done to fix that? I don't have the answer, but I thought it's obviously a very good example or challenge that needs to be overcome. And I think intergenerational thinking is you've got to respect the past, present, and future, right? It's a continuum of where we came from, what we're doing now, and what's happening in the future. I think of things like whakapapa. We're talking about this is like where I come from and the people who made me. And then you're thinking about kaitiakitanga, which is based around guardianship or looking after the environment, looking after our people. And those all kind of weave into the idea of intergenerational well-being. So that's what I think. That's what I think of when I think of intergenerational from a Māori perspective. You think of your tipuna, your ancestors, your whenua, your land, and then your mokopuna, who are your future generations. And your business activities should be based around that continuum.
So it's this idea that you're a guardian in many ways for what has been handed to you to then look after for those people that are going to come after you.
Yes. Yeah, we're all connected.
That's beautiful. So how does your understanding of Tikanga Māori shape your approach to commercial legal work? What you've just outlined, there's got to be this real kind of tension, make money now, get it done, exit, grow versus let's not cut off our nose to spite our face. We want to have a planet to live on in 100, 200 years' time.
I think my understanding of Tikanga Māori is it's a work in progress. I think I'm never going to know enough about it. I'm never going to know everything. I think it's very, it's like a living system, and it's the foundation of our existence, and it can be very complicated. It can be complex, but at the same time very simple. And often I found it's interpreted differently by different people. So when I think about how I apply it, I think about how I apply it in my own life first, always, and what it means to me. And you kind of put on a tikanga lens of how I would view something from a tikanga perspective. It's really helped me doing that in my work. I think it's important to note there's no special Māori commercial law. Like there's no type of law that's Māori commercial. My mahi involves the application of standard commercial law, but I'm doing it in a way that I think is trying to achieve different outcomes. And like the intergenerational well-being that we've talked about, and it's like, or ensuring that the way that we get to these outcomes are in align with certain values that people have. When I'm doing my standard legal advice, it's like you've got a lens of tikanga over it and understanding what is most important to your client versus what is traditionally most important to a lot of my other clients, for example.
So you talked about values earlier and this idea that you almost take a self lens first around how you're leading yourself before you start thinking from a whānau and then a mahi perspective. How do those values like whakapapa, manaakitanga and kaitiakitanga influence business leadership and planning? Or actually, how should they influence our business leadership and planning? Because I think we might be a little bit too Wolf of Wall Street versus let's think a little longer term.
Yeah, I think the values that you've just used, I think they are quite foundational for any business leader and any strategic planning that you're doing for your business. So take whakapapa, for example, and I've talked about this before. You've got people it's your people that you're focusing on. So whakapapa is where you've come from and who you are. And I think if you're using that, it's a reminder for your business leaders to focus on people, not just profits. So you're thinking about the relationships, you're thinking about the responsibility that you have across generations. And I think that kind of grounds your decision making to ensure that it is connected to the people that you're dealing with. Manaakitanga I talked about before, and it's actually a core value at McCall-Lewis. I see that care for people and that respect and that hospitality in all your interactions. What it does is uplifts your people and nurtures your people without just focusing on a bottom line. And I think that doing that will add to the bottom line without it being a focus. Same with kaitiakitanga. We're guardians of the world around us. But again, it's back to people are part of the world around us. And that should really be driving your long-term thinking, right? So that's driving your business planning to ensure that you're looking after taonga, you're ensuring sustainability so that future generations have something that's thriving compared to something that's depleted. And I think that I can only think of positive things that come from leaders thinking with those values in mind, because you're creating organizations that are hopefully more resilient and more trusted and more connected to the people that they are serving.
So I'm going to be a bit of an antagonist here. That's all great, and I'm loving it. I love the vibe. And I'm 100% behind it. But in the realities of day-to-day business, and particularly we are on the whole working in that Western economy, that whole ecosystem, how do you balance those needs to the demands and processes of the banking world, the whole banking industry, the legal processes that you've got to follow, which is very westernized, and even investor demands? Because yes, you'll have some Māori investments who will really understand that whole process, but then there'll be some pockets of money that don't understand that process. So how do you, guiding your clients, your commercial and your business clients, balance? Because that's got to really crunch heads.
Oh yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, Rob. I don't think. I'm within a Māori organisation, so I know that there are outcomes and outputs that need to happen. So that's your very strict approach of what needs to be done. But I think that you achieve that by a lot of values are around culture, right, within organisations, and you can still uphold those cultural values, but you can also have strict or more Western things that are going on within an organisation that you need to uphold as well. I guess I'm thinking that they need to work together, and a lot of it's about educating my clients about how a Western viewpoint and how we can help assist that disconnect between the two. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. I think it's always going to be a work in progress, and both parties are willing to be open to understand a different way of doing things, because I don't think there's always going to be an agreement on one way or the other. It's going to be a partnership between, say, the banking industry. Like, use banking as an example. There are teams within banking organisations that are focused on working with Māori organisations. So I see that as a solution of being able to work with Māori organisations specifically to achieve their outcomes. So that's why I think the banking industry, for example, is adopting departments and teams of Māori that are learning to work with Māori organisations. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a partnership.
Just a quick a second sidebar question, but have you had to go the other way, like a Māori organisation or a team or a startup, and they're trying to reclaim their identity, and they're going, okay, we're going to really learn about who we are, but that's been brought up in that Western world, but they're really trying to sort of embed some of their learnings and go back to their roots. Have you had to guide businesses to sort of build up that tikanga process because they're well entrenched in the Western process?
That's basically me. So
okay.
I think I came from always known I'm Māori, had no doubt that I'm Māori, but I was brought very much up in a Pākehā world. My parents' thoughts were, you weren't successful, for you to be successful, you needed to be brought up in a Pākehā setting. So I definitely have clients now that I relate to. What I say to them if they're wanting to be more, aligned with tikanga practices is that, claim who you are and understand, and your job is to make sure that you understand and learn as much as you can, but that's not to stop you from being who you are. And yeah, just go for it. Like, I don't think, and that comes from my own experiences with reclaiming my understanding of being Māori. And I think that relates to any business idea too, to be honest.
and just general support, advice and legally stuff and all of that kind of stuff. It's just more of just supporting them, going, yeah, go for it. Really be proud of who that you are and what that business values is going to be such an awesome kick.
It is, and it's such a lot of Māori face this identity crisis of not knowing who they are.
Yeah.
And that translates into work life, home life. Everything kind of stems from that sometimes. And I think that I'm fully supportive of doing everything to allow people to go do it. So if I have clients coming to me, that's always going to be my advice is you're Māori. That's who you are. Go for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how does those tikanga practices really shape the advice, the governance, the partnerships that would be quite different in a normal sort of commercial operation and set agreements?
A lot of the time is coming is you need to have an understanding of what the client is, understanding and clarity around what tikanga principles your client is wanting to implement or what they are going to live by. Like I said before, a lot of people have different interpretations or different ways that's going to look for them. So I'm always wanting to know exactly what they're talking about when they say kaitiakitanga. What does that mean to them? And that's having clarity around that, and then it means I can apply it in whatever scenario is coming across my desk. I think a good example, say a shareholders agreement, pretty good governance document to have for your organisation. We've done this a lot with clients, is have like a purpose statement at the start of the document, which is not common in other standard documents, other shareholders agreements that I've seen. And it outlines what the core values of the shareholders are, and it really sets the tone of what they're trying to achieve, whether it's kotahitanga, te whakapono. So te whakapono is about believing in what you do and knowing it's right. And I think it provides an acknowledgement that perhaps they're not solely focused on profits. They want to see a balance between their cultural identities, their obligations to the environment, or what is most important to them. And traditionally what you'll see, and you'll probably see this quite often, is shareholders agreements literally just have the purpose is to maximize shareholders' return, and that's it. And that doesn't provide much context in terms of what the organization is trying to achieve. And I think having values provides more guidance on how outcomes will be reached without being so narrow. There's also another example, boards are a really good way of integrating tikanga principles. Generally speaking, you have shareholders that appoint your board members, but Māori organisations tend to have space for, say, kaumātua or rangatahi. They can sit there and provide their perspective, and that's recorded in minutes so that they can see what their perspective is. And I think that's really, again, talks to intergenerational well-being and the importance of your past and your future. And that's where you practically see some tikanga coming through in commercial contracts or structuring.
So on that, how do you actively work tikanga into your practice, your advice and your processes?
Good question. I haven't reflected on that, but I think I know the answer in terms of go back to the whakatauki that is always kicking around in my head. Excellence is always in my mind when I'm dealing with clients. Do you know what? Might sound a bit cheesy.
No.
But I'm very fortunate to have found an organisation that fully aligns with my own personal values.
Yeah.
Some people might go, ugh, stop it. But I do genuinely align with what the firm is trying to achieve, which makes my job easier in terms of a lot of the processes and procedures and the behaviours that are going on are in line with what I value. So excellence is one of them.
love excellence. I'm no doubt ask you more questions around that. But on this, do you find yourself just making sure that what you are doing, yes, it aligns with the business and your clients' values, but it's just checking in with your values and that you're practicing the way you want to?
I am big into ensuring that I work as a team with my clients in particular, ensuring that I have taken on what their objectives are, and that I've been able to work collectively with them to get something done. Honesty and integrity have always been huge for me as well. I don't often come across scenarios that don't align with that with my clients. It's not often. I can't actually recall a time that something's come across my desk and it's been a big no. I'm lucky because I'm sure it does happen to a lot of people, but I don't have that problem, and I haven't had that problem with a lot of Māori organisations I've worked with. Times when I think I've had to recheck my values is, say, because all Māori organisations sometimes work on a slower time frame. And what I mean by that is a lot of these people, it's not their full-time job. A lot of Māori organisations have this is their second, like this in their spare time. So I've got to realise that things aren't going to happen as fast as I would normally like them to. And that's when I would do a check-in with myself and reflect on, okay, so what's the overall, what am I trying to achieve? Does it need to happen when I would, in a week's time? Or is it okay that it happens within a month? And is it okay for me to contact the client again and say, hey, I know you guys are really busy, but can we move this along? So that's when I would do my check-in mostly. But otherwise, generally pretty aligned with how I'm feeling a lot of the time, which is lucky, but maybe I need to have some harder things come across my desk.
I'm sure it's all part of the screening and onboarding of clients. They got to know what kind of law firm they're engaging with and how you work. So
yeah,
excellent.
So we'll do a bit of a step into the Māori economy. If we look back, 20, 30 years, the Māori economy is really starting to take off. You've talked about this. You've talked about banks starting to realise that they need to change how they go about their day-to-day activities so that they can align with Māori. How would you describe the current landscape in the Māori economy?
I think, I guess you've kind of been living under a rock in this space if you haven't heard about Te Ohanga Māori. So it's this Māori economy report that's come out. And from that, I guess everyone can think it's a really exciting time for Māori. Like, it's growing. The Māori economy is growing. It's thriving and it's super fast paced. Crazy numbers. So like in the last 5 years alone, like you jump from an asset base of 69 billion to 126 billion. It's huge numbers. And you're close to 9% of the national economy now, which is mental, like in the last 5 years, to see such huge growth. But the part that I really enjoy is that we've moved away from primary industries. So like farming, forestry, fishing and that sort of stuff. We're moving into more professional services, property and high value investments, high value industries. So that really excites me because, that's a change. Like that's such a positive change to be happening. And it's like the first time ever since 2006, like you're having more Māori in high skilled jobs than you are in low skilled jobs. So that means we're getting educated. We're becoming lawyers, doctors, engineers. And that is something that's actually very exciting for a lot of Māori. But another thing that came out of the report is, like we've talked about values this entire episode, but all Māori organisations are showing to be values-led. And that to me sounds like it's working. So, this value-led way of doing things is showing up and doing great things for the Māori economy. But yeah, so it's very promising.
Well, you said the Māori economy went from 60 million to over 120, and you said that was 6 years, right?
No, the last 5 years alone,
it's gone from 5 years.
Yeah, right. 69 billion to 126 billion.
Close to double.
Yeah, like pretty cool.
So there's probably something that you could be paying attention to there if you have been living under that rock and haven't realised that, right? So we hear a lot about treaty settlements, and I know there's different iwi that are working through those and that type of thing. But how do they influence Māori business development?
I think they're quite pivotal in Māori business and Māori enterprise. Treaty settlements were quite like a turning point for Māori, and it wasn't just about righting wrongs. It was allowing or creating a platform for Māori to lead their own economic growth, right? So when you're receiving your settlement redress, you've got land, fisheries, capital, and talking quite a lot of money. I guess the role of post-settlement was to grow this intergenerational investment fund. And it was treated like a taonga. It's not something that they were going to dwindle away. It's all about growing that and keeping that redress package and then expanding it. And I think from that, it's really pushed so many positive things, like iwis they've been able to build their own governance structures, invest in diversified portfolios, like look at Waikato Tainui and TGH, just major players doing amazing things. And it's really created job and allowed people to come home too. I think that's another really important thing that's happened, is that because you've created ways for people to be involved with the iwi and what they're doing, a lot of people have come home and being able to work for their iwi. And I just think that's so important, coming home again and being able to contribute. And the settlements they're all future thinking. So you're thinking 100 years out or more, and trying to ensure that you are trying to achieve economic sovereignty for Māori, so that they are in charge of their own economic development and what they're trying to achieve. And I think that's fundamental in what's happened post-settlement.
It's awesome. And I love hearing that you're talking about Māori also moving away from those traditional industries. And Rob and I think we like to hear that people are moving away from primary industries into those value-add services and kind of knowledge-based roles, because that's truly where New Zealand can create a point of difference, and we can start scaling the impact we have on the global stage, right? It takes a long time to grow more trees, so it's literally something that just grows, it doesn't scale. Being able to apply knowledge in different ways can probably become a significant advantage for Māori. So with that post-settlement, I mean, someone comes in and drops tens, hundreds of millions or whatever on an iwi. What challenges does that actually give them? I mean, probably a lot of us, you'd think that would be amazing, but at the same time, given the Māori worldview, that's a heavy responsibility. So what are the challenges that iwi do face around how they manage assets for their future generations?
I think there are plenty of challenges faced by iwi organisations. Not to say they haven't overcome them, but I guess one of the big ones would be making sure that you have the right people with the required skills to understand basically how to run a big business, right? A big commercial entity. Because you've got your PSGEs, which is your post-settlement governance entities, and that's business, right? So you've got all of the settlement work that comes, you've got your deed, you sign it off, and then you've got your PSGE, which is in charge of the commercial stuff. And there is probably and has been problems, which is resolving itself, I think, is people that have the required skills, but the tikanga knowledge that are required to govern those assets that are being received. So I think that's one challenge. Another is really thinking about future generations and being committed to kaitiakitanga and ensuring that you're not wasting, that you're not dwindling away that huge asset base. You're actually maintaining it and growing it. I think that's a challenge in itself. And then the challenges of engaging with your whānau hapu iwi members, because remembering that a PSG is based on a collective, it is for the benefit of a collective group of people, and ensuring that those whānau hapu and iwi members remain connected and are properly consulted on big decisions that are being made for assets that really should be that are for their benefit. So I think those are three big challenges that are faced by iwi post-settlement.
So where I'm doing this recording, I'm at Waikato Innovation Park, and I can literally look outside the window and see one of the best, well, certainly from an outward point of view anyway, one of the most active collaborations between a Māori-based organisation, i.e. Tainui, and with Port of Tauranga, and that's the inland port. Huge benefits for everyone, right? Amazing. That's a little bit of a bigger scale than what most collaborations tend to be. What would your advice be for those organisations, businesses in mainstream who are looking at maybe joining and collaborating with a Māori-based organisation? What do they need to consider? What do they need to think and be prepared for?
I think for a non-Māori organisation partnering with a Māori organisation, I think you need to understand, you have an intention to understand, first of all. I think you're approaching the relationship with an intention to understand a different way of doing things. You have to be patient and you have to have a long-term mindset. It's not going to be all the time. Like, it might be some cases of a quick transaction and that's it. But a lot of the time it's going to be focused on the long term, and it's going to affect decisions. The Māori organisation is thinking well ahead, whereas that's not a very mainstream, as you put it, Rob. I think it's Māori are very focused on whakapapa, which is about your relationships and your connections, and there is that's at the forefront of their business transactions and their business relationships, is having those relationships. And I think partnership with Māori you will have to understand and be willing and open to working that way with them.
Yeah. So I think David mentioned it before. This is certainly not the Wolf on Wall Street or Diary of the CEO where there's a deal to be done. Let's do it. We can crack it off. There's a few other things to be considered.
Agree.
Well, that's it. You've got to take time to sit down for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and kind of get to know the person and that type of thing. It's slowing down to speed up.
It is. I think there is so much value in understanding who the person you're working with and how they operate and how they tick. It can only be a good thing.
So on your side of things, you're well entrenched in the legal profession. How are you seeing that you can better support Māori economic development and tino rangatiratanga?
I think sort of like how I answered before, it's I'm very much into and have realised that it's about having understanding and knowledge of Tikanga Māori. I'm not ever going to be perfect, but you want to understand and know how things work, and people need to have an open mind of doing things differently. I think that's an important thing to note when you are working with Māori organisations. The legal profession can play a pivotal role in Māori economic development and how we are advising clients and assisting them with what they want to achieve. And again, it's about understanding you do have to put a tikanga lens on when you are advising clients, and you will a lot of the time, and it has come across that when I've been advising clients that short term it makes perfect sense for you to do this thing, like it's going to be super profitable and it sounds like it's going to be great, but the long term effect of that may not be the right thing to do. So in the long term, if it's going to harm whatever we're trying to achieve, then actually we're not going to do that really profitable thing now. And lawyers need to be able to think like that. And I'm not sure, I don't know how they're going to start to do that aside from getting in there and doing it. That's how I think is the best way to do it. But back to understanding is crucial, I think, and being willing to do things differently.
We've talked a lot about the Māori worldview. So I'm curious about you and what your vision is for the future of Māori commercial law and Māori enterprise in Aotearoa.
Oh, it's a big question, David. Feels like a very big question. So I'll try my best. I think for me, if we can fully reflect and uphold tikanga Māori in our legal frameworks and our advice, and are doing the best job that we can to ensure that those principles are being upheld, I would be happy if that's the case and it was common practice for any Māori organisation to go to their law firm and lawyers to know what they're talking about and how they want to reach their outcomes. And I think if we can have all lawyers that are able to see, I want to see Māori businesses thriving. I want to see them being able to do things without having to fit into a system that's not been created for them. So if we can have a way of creating their own systems and their own practices, then legal frameworks, then I would think that'd be awesome for us to be able to achieve that, because that means we're going to be culturally grounded but remain like super competitive in New Zealand and overseas. But ultimately, the ultimate goal, I think, is to have Māori self-determination, economic self-determination, what you talked about. So economic tino rangatiratanga, and ensuring that Māori aspirations are fully part of the commercial landscape here in Aotearoa.
Full stop, done, mic drop. Excellent. I think we're really getting into some awesome stuff. I'm already thinking of follow-up episode, possibly later on, early next year, looking at our schedule. This is such a unique New Zealand conversation that needs to happen a lot more. So I'm loving it. Awesome. But I'm about to start something that I know that you were a little bit nervous of at the beginning of the podcast. And these are the quick fire questions.
No. Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Brilliant.
I'm very competitive, so.
We won't get you along here for the quiz night. I could imagine that will be brutal. Okay, quick fire. Question 1. What's one thing a business can do tomorrow to think longer term?
Okay, one thing that a business can do tomorrow is to ensure that every major decision that they make is put through a 2050 test. So you want to be thinking, if we still had to live with the consequences of this in 2050, would we be proud of it?
Wonderful. Awesome. One resources you recommend for Māori business owners?
Utilise whakapapa. So you want to build your network of like-minded people. In the Waikato, for example, there is a Māori business network called Te Humika. Very well regarded, awesome way for you to meet other business owners, attend events, and is an awesome resource if you're a Māori business owner.
Fantastic. I thought just having your business card would be a great answer, but never mind. That was the next one.
Next time.
One legal tip every SMB owner should know.
I can't take credit for this one, I don't think, because it was advice given to me by my boss, Laura Monaghan. She said every business needs to set up their house. So you need to have a shareholders agreement in place, and you need to have a good suite of contracts that you can use.
One mistake you wish more non-Māori businesses would avoid?
In the context of working with Māori, that it's just a transaction. It's never going to be a checklist or a quick deal sort of thing. It's going to be about building trust, building relationships, and understanding tikanga. If you rush it, that will be a mistake.
Excellent. And the last one, in a sentence, what gives Māori businesses its greatest strength?
The greatest strength that any Māori business can have is to be super proud that they're Māori.
Second mic drop. Well done. Awesome. You survived. It was wonderful.
Oh, good. I've been so nervous about that. Holy moly. I'm so glad it's over.
Thanks, Katia, for helping us see what's possible when we stop chasing short-term wins and start thinking in generations. There's a few things that have stood out in this conversation, but really it's how deeply business can be rooted in purpose when you lead from values like kaitiakitanga, whakapapa, manaakitanga, rather than just the next quarter's results. We've seen how Māori businesses embed long-term thinking into everything, from governance to legal structures. It's not just good strategy, it's good legacy. If you're a business leader stuck in the grind of urgent over important, this episode is your invitation to pause and ask, what am I building and who am I building it for? A key little insight for me is the 2050 test. Maybe you need to run whatever's going on past that. If our kōrero today has resonated with you, please share it with someone else in your business. Haere rā.